I've managed to build a multi-million dollar property portfolio in just a few short years, and I want to inspire and motivate other Australians that if I can do it, so can you. The Tailored Property Wealth podcast has been created to help educate, mentor, coach, and support you through everything relating to property investing to make sure you go out there and make a much better educated decision when investing in property. Please like, share, subscribe, and share this podcast with anyone who you think might see value in it. Welcome back, guys, to the third episode of the Tailored Property Wealth podcast. My name is Casey Taylor. I'm the host of the podcast, and in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the 5 pillars to successful property investing. It's really just a foundation of what you really need to be able to become a seasoned property investor, but not just get stuck on those 1 or 2 properties. Really build that portfolio up. Your goal might not be to build a 10 property portfolio, and that's completely okay. But you still want to get these, I guess, basic fundamentals right, because it's just going to make you go out there and be a more sophisticated investor. All right. So straight into number 1, and I think this is the most crucial above all others, above income, above servicing, because if you can't do this, you're not going to go out there and 1, increase your income, or 2, go out there, get the servicing. And that is your mindset. Mindset is so important. And this is obviously something that you can implement into so many different aspects of your life, right? But the mindset, people talking in your ears, telling you not to do things, mainstream media making a lot of noise, these things, if your mindset's not in the right place, you'll sit there on your hands and you won't take any action. And that's what a lot of people do. And then they look back 10, 15 years time and they're like, shit, should have taken action, should have taken those steps, because hindsight is a wonderful thing. So just talking a little bit further on people telling you not to do it, mainstream media. If you do property investing right and you're holding for the long term, 10, 15, 20, 25 years, there's going to be people in your ear telling you not to purchase, whether it's mainstream media, family, friends. And your family and friends might be doing it out of a place of trying to protect you, out of their own fear for you. But this is where it's really important to find a coach, find a mentor who's in the position you want to be in, because they've laid the foundation, they've done it themselves, and that's who you really need to focus on. The harsh reality is sometimes a family member that's trying to influence you to take action or not take action or whatever that may be, if they're not in the position that you want to be in and they've only purchased their own occupied property or whatever that is, unfortunately, they just might not have the knowledge, have the expertise to help you get to that goal. So it's really important who you listen to, and that sometimes can be people who are there trying to protect you, doing it out of the goodness of their heart, but it's just that fear and that lack of understanding from someone else that can impact on you. Okay, mainstream media, they've been banging on about it for decades. In the 60s, 70s, 80s, they're always going to have negativity around property. Just remember that they've got the hidden agenda that the more fear, the more doom and gloom they create, the more views they get, and that's how they're successful in what they do. Rates are going to go up as well. They're going to talk about that. So there's just so many things that they're going to talk about. But if you just understand long-term that property performs, there's going to be swings and roundabouts. Some points in time are going to be easier than others. That's where you just get in, you still take action, you hold long-term, and it's going to serve you extremely well. Okay. So it's really something that you need in your arsenal to be a successful property investor, to go out there and smash those goals. If you don't have that right mindset, you've got the fear, you're letting other people influence you, you won't go back to the bank and you won't get finance when you potentially could have. I know a lot of people who could go out there and purchase property and build their wealth, but out of fear, they don't take that action, and then they're missing out on capital growth, building that wealth base where into retirement, they've got a larger wealth base, they've got more options, more opportunity, and they're not just relying on their owner-occupied property being that main asset class that they have into retirement, because then you need to still go and you need to to downgrade your property or do bits and pieces to be able to access that asset. Okay. Number two is leverage. Leverage is your friend. You got to get into good debt, not bad debt. There is very much a difference. Obviously, bad debt, personal loans, credit cards, going out there and buying materialistic items that are going to depreciate in value, or you're just simply racking up credit cards or whatever it may be to support a lifestyle that you can't afford at that point in time. Good debt and leveraging other people's money, which is the bank's money, is what you need to do to build your asset base. I guess if you think about getting into debt and I'm in millions of dollars worth of debt, right? That's the reality of it. And this comes back to your mindset, being able to control, manage that, and don't let that fear of being in debt, I guess, scare you. We touched on this in the first episode where I broke down my portfolio, what that portfolio would look like in a period of time. I think it was 15 years off the top of my head, and it was something like 12.7 million. But then if I just leave that debt level the same over time, LVR still continues to drop. So don't be scared, to go out there and leverage other people's money, because that allows you to build a larger wealth base, and then that compounding effect over that larger wealth base creates more and more wealth. And then you have the negative Nancy's out there that you got to pay interest and you got to pay this and that and the other. Just remember, when you're purchasing an investment property as well, that is a tax deduction. Speak to your accountant. But the interest, the repayments, the expenses are all a tax reduction strategy. Versus if you're going out there and you're purchasing just your owner-occupied property, you're paying back a lot of interest, but you're actually not able to claim that. So leverage is your friend. If you're going to go out there and save 500,000-600,000 in cash, you would simply just never purchase a property unless you're lucky and you do receive that inheritance or whatever it is, and you get access to that large piece of cash. All right, so get comfortable with debt, get comfortable with leverage. It's going to be your friend. And I just have the mindset that debt is, at the end of the day, a short-term thing. If I can, well, not so much a short-term thing, but it's not a permanent thing. Because in 10, 15 years' time, when the portfolio grows so much, I have the option and the opportunity to analyze the portfolio, see what properties we may offload to pay down some of that debt, reduce that debt, but we've still got a lot of foundation there in the portfolio, which is going to create more of that passive income. So that's just a way I like to think of it personally. The debt, the leverage, it's not permanent. There's solutions in place once you hold for a period of time to be able to reduce some of that debt. Okay. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Tailored Property Wealth Podcast. I hope you're learning lots and getting lots of value out of this episode. If you want to discuss the opportunity of working with us here at Tailored Property Wealth, jump across to the website www.tailoredpropertywealth.com.au. Complete the contact form. Let us know that you're listening to the Tailored Property Wealth Podcast, and let's reach out. Let's have a chat and see how we can help you execute on your property goals. All right, number 3, treat property investing like a business with zero emotion. A lot of people get caught up, and this is where they can make mistakes, is they purchase a property just around the corner from where they live or whatever it may be. And it doesn't necessarily mean that that area is going to perform. And this is where you can really get into trouble. If that property that you purchase sits there stagnant for 10 years, that's where you can't use that equity to go and leverage into further properties. It's really important. And a lot of people say, I want to purchase so I can go and check on the property. The property will not grow legs and run away. It's going to be there. Obviously, worst case scenario, you have a tenant in there and the place burns to the ground. But that's what we have insurance in place for. And that's what we have a quality property manager for as well. They're going to manage that property on an ongoing basis. And they'll honestly be able to do it better than what you'd be able to do. That's what they specialize in. They can pick up on little bits and pieces that you probably wouldn't do so yourself. Okay. So go out there, treat it like a business, search for areas that meet your goals, that meet the numbers as well. You can go out there and target more affordable areas and with stronger yields. So it costs you less to hold. They're early in the growth cycle. We mentioned that before. And then that's where you get that performance. So don't get emotional. If you look at a property and it's a little bit ugly, it's got a pink door, it's got a purple roof, whatever it is, just remember that if you get the fundamentals of the supply and demand and location right, the property will perform. It doesn't matter what color the door is or anything like that. I've got properties in my portfolio that are ugly. I personally wouldn't live there myself, and they've still performed extremely well. So it's just taking that emotion out of the purchase. Um, I think I'm quite good at doing that. Um, it's probably for me, I don't get very emotional with a lot of things. So it's probably easy for me to just leave that out. It's purely just a transaction. It's there. My portfolio is a business in itself, and that is property investing. All right. Number 4, cash management. We touched on this in the previous episode. Your cash management is going to be crucial because that's where you can go and get the leverage that we've talked about to go out there and purchase more properties. And it's hard, right? Because to invest in property, the first purchase, unless you're lucky, you get the cash. I keep banging on about that, but you have to save a deposit yourself. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard. You need to consistently save and put that money away. But then once you get that first property and you're starting to get that capital growth, if you do the purchase right, that's where you don't have to save deposits anymore. But if you can do that and continue to save those surpluses, you might be able to use a combination of cash and equity to go into further deals. And it helps that next property, the more cash you inject into it, the better number wise it is, the less it's going to cost you in the pocket. So it might allow you with your cash management not just to purchase the property in the first place, but then purchase second property sooner, which is what I did. I understood, I leveraged extremely high on the first property. So even though it performs well, I won't be able to go back and leverage more equity because I did a 5% deposit on the first one. So I knew for the second one, I'm going to have to go out there, save another cash deposit. And that's what I did, another 5% deposit. But then from there on, because a little bit of time in the market, I was able to start leveraging the equity off the first property, off the second property for the third, fourth, and going into however many now. So it's really important in the first stages, that cash management piece. But over time, if you can consistently put away that cash and hold that in an offset account, it's going to be powerful for you to be able to reduce the interest that you pay, build up your buffers, and that potentially is an option for you down the track to pay off some of that debt as well. Or you're doing principal and interest and you're really saving and pushing down that debt as soon as possible. So cash management throughout your entire portfolio is going to be super crucial. It's a long-term thing. It's a habit that you need to have. It's not just in those early stages when you're saving the deposit. It is throughout that piece, especially when we see interest rates go up and down, something outside our control. Interest rates will go up. They will go down 100% if you're holding for a 15-year period. We've obviously just gone through that 2-year period where rates have gone up. They're really at a peak for where they're at now. And hopefully in the near future, I've said it for a period of time, we will see that drop. No one's got a crystal ball, but it will happen in, I guess, the short to medium term. And that'll improve a bit. But that's why we need to have those buffers in place, because over time we create passive income. But if naturally we're holding debt and rates do go up, it's going to reduce that passive income for that period of time. So it's always going to slightly fluctuate a little bit as you hold longer and longer, and that passive income continues to build. It's going to affect you less, obviously, but you want to keep that in mind as well if you're relying on that passive income or whatever it may be. And last but not least is just simply strategy. This goes hand in hand with treating it like a business as well, right? You don't want to just go onto realestate.com and just look at properties, look at it and think, not this property, negotiate on it, secure it, and then you just hold it and it might not do anything. You want to have a really clear strategy in place when you're purchasing to make sure that that property performs extremely well long term, but also in that short to medium term. So you get that growth, you get that equity, you can access it sooner to go again, get into another property, purchase in another area, prime for growth. And it's just, you're just building and building and building. So it's really understanding what that budget is, going out there and then finding what city is the right stage in its cycle that meets my goals in budget, the right yield, the right supply and demand fundamentals to push that growth. So it's super, super, super important to get that strategy piece right. If you don't get that strategy piece right, it's it can mean the difference between getting into further properties down the track or you get stuck. I think the stats with the last census was that property investors, 71% of property investors hold just one property. So what that says is that majority of property investors are mum and dad investors and they get stuck on one property. They might make a mistake or their mindset, like we talked about, might hold them back. So strategy is super important to be able to get to the 1% of property investors, right, which hold 6 or more properties. It's really, really crucial, the strategy piece. All right. So you want to have a clear data and research backed approach when you're going out there and purchasing. And even if it's your owner occupied property, right, there is still strategy involved in that. You want it to tick all the boxes for where you personally want to live and all the rest of it. But there's still due diligence pieces and other things that you can overlap with what you're searching for, just to make sure that that property is a quality property and it's going to perform. All right. So that's pretty much episode 3 done and dusted. Nice short one today. 5 pillars of successful property investing. You really need to make sure that you have these in place under your belt and you're implementing them if you want to be a successful property investor. Like I said, it's going to help you get to that 1% of property investors where you've got 6 or more properties. But even if your goal is only those 1 or 2 properties and you want to make them count, you want to make sure they're high quality, performing well for you, you do want to abide by this. Okay. So have a cracking day out there. If you're on the drive to work, whatever it is, if you have any feedback, tell me the things you like, you don't like. As always, happy to always improve on those. And thank you for listening, guys. Go out there and smash the day. Have a good one. Thank you for listening to this episode of the podcast. If you don't already, make sure you follow us across all of our social platforms. That can be Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. I wish you all the best out there on your property investing journey, and I hope each decision you make in purchasing more property gets you closer to your goal of financial freedom.